My name is Takeshi Yamamoto. I'm a pediatric cardiac surgeon in Tokyo, or at least, that's who I was before everything changed. For 32 years, I believed in nothing but what I could see under my microscope, what I could measure, what I could cut open and fix with my own two hands. That was just a word people used when they didn't understand the science yet. I remember the night she came in, August 15, 2019. I was finishing my shift when the emergency call came through. 7-year-old girl, severe congenital heart defect, complete atrioventricular septal defect with pulmonary hypertension. Her heart was failing, and fast. Her name was Shah. When I walked into that room, I saw her parents. The mother was wearing a headscarf, and the father had a short beard. Muslims. They were holding their daughter's small hands, and I could hear them whispering something in Arabic. Their eyes were red from crying, but there was something else there. Something I didn't understand at the time. Peace. How could they have peace? Their daughter was dying. I explained the surgery. 12 hours minimum. High risk. Maybe 30% chance of survival. I've learned to be honest with parents. It's better they know. The father looked at me and said, "Doctor, we trust in Allah first, and then in your hands. You are the means, but He is the one who decides." I nodded politely. I'd heard religious talk before. It never changed the outcome. Science did. We started the surgery at 11 p.m. My team was the best in Japan. We'd done hundreds of these procedures. But this one was different. Everything was going wrong. The tissue was more damaged than the scans showed. The bleeding wouldn't stop. We were 7 hours in, and I was losing her. Then, at 6:47 am, her heart stopped. We tried everything. Defibrillation, medications, manual compression. Nothing worked. I looked at the monitor. Flatline. I looked at the clock. We'd been trying to revive her for 18 minutes. In my mind, I was already preparing what I would tell her parents. I'd done this before. You never get used to it, but you learn the words. I was about to call it. Time of death, 6:47 am. But something made me hesitate. I don't know what. Maybe it was remembering her father's face. That strange peace he had. I tried one more time. One more shock. Nothing. I put my hand on her tiny chest. And I don't know why I did this. I had never done this before in my entire career, but I closed my eyes, and I thought, if there is a God, if you're real, don't let this child die. It wasn't even a prayer. It was more like a challenge. Prove yourself. 3 seconds later, the monitor beeped. One heartbeat, then another, then a rhythm. My team stood frozen. The anesthesiologist looked at me with wide eyes. "Dr. Yamamoto, what just happened?" I had no answer. In 32 years of medicine, I had never seen a heart restart on its own after 19 minutes of failed resuscitation. Never. We completed the surgery. Somehow miraculously, she stabilized. When I finally walked out of that operating room, the sun was rising over Tokyo. I was exhausted, confused, shaking. Her parents were in the waiting room, still in the same position, still praying. When I told them their daughter was a lie, the mother fell to her knees and pressed her forehead to the ground. The father had tears streaming down his face, and he kept saying, "Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, thank God, thank God." I went home that morning, and I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing that flat line, kept hearing that beep when her heart started again, kept feeling my own hand on her chest. What had happened in that moment? For the first time in my life, I didn't have a scientific explanation. 3 days later, I went to check on Shah. She was sitting up in bed, coloring a picture. When she saw me, she smiled. A 7-year-old girl, who had been dead on my operating table, was smiling at me. Her mother was sitting beside her, reading from a book in Arabic. I asked what it was. The cringy said, "Would you like to hear?" I don't know why I said yes, but I did. She read to me in Arabic first, then translated to Japanese. It was Surah Al-Mulk, verse 2, "He who created death and life to test you as to which of you is best indeed." Something in those words hit me like a physical force. I started asking questions about Islam, about God, about that book. The father gave me a copy of the Quran in Japanese. I took it home and I told myself I was just curious, just being polite. But that night, I opened it, and I couldn't stop reading. I read about embryology in Surah Al-Mu'minun, the stages of human development described in a book written 1,400 years ago matched exactly what I had studied in medical school. The Ilika Stegev clinging clot, the Muja Stegev chewed lump of flesh. How could a man in the desert know this? I read about the heart, about how it's the center of understanding, not just a pump. Modern neurocardiology was discovering this now heart has its own nervous system, its own intelligence. But the Quran had said this 14 centuries ago. I spent 6 months reading, researching. I went to the Islamic Center in Tokyo. I met with an imam. I asked every difficult question I had. Why is there suffering? Why do children get sick? Why did his heart stop? The Imam told me something I'll never forget. He said, "Doctor, you spend your life trying to fix hearts, but Allah is the one who created them. You are brilliant, but your knowledge is limited. His knowledge is infinite." That moment in the operating room, when you couldn't explain what happened at that, was him showing you the truth. You are not in control. He is. For the first time in my adult life, I felt small, but not in a bad way, in a liberating way. I didn't have to have all the answers. I didn't have to carry the weight of every life on my shoulders alone. There was something greater than me. On March 3, 2020, I walked into the Islamic Center in Tokyo. My hands were shaking. I had rehearsed the words in Arabic for weeks. The Imam stood in front of me. Around me were maybe 20 people, including his father. He had come to witness this moment. I took a breath, and I said the words, "Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah." I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. When I finished, everyone in the room said Allahu Akbar, and they hugged me. Grown men were crying. I was crying. His father held my face in his hands and he said, "You saved my daughter's life, and Allah used her to save yours." That broke me. I sobbed like I hadn't sobbed since I was a child. Everything I had believed about the world was wrong. I wasn't the master of life and death. I was just a tool, a means, and the one who truly controlled everything had been there all along, waiting for me to stop being arrogant enough to think I didn't need him. Today, I still work as a surgeon, but now before every operation, I pray. I ask Allah to guide my hands, to give me wisdom, to help me be the best instrument I can be for His will. And every time I see Shasha's 13 healthy, full of life, I'm reminded of the day I died and came back to life. Not her, me, because the man who walked out of that operating room was not the same man who walked in. I was dead in my arrogance, in my disbelief, in my pride, and Allah brought me back to life through the heart of a 7-year-old girl named Shah. Alhamdulillah, all praise is due to Allah.